All right, today I'm going to teach you how to do a drawing of a tower. First thing I want you to do is draw a line really lightly down the middle of your paper. You are going to erase this later, so don't be too picky about it. Just try and do a straight line. Your tower is going to be centered on this line, okay? Starting at the top. Now, we've already learned how to make shapes like pyramids, cubes, spheres, things like that. We're going to stack them. The way you do that is starting at the top here. Maybe I'll zoom in for you. All the way at the top here. Down a bit. So not all the way to the top, down a bit. Make a dot. The equal distances out from that dot, make another dot. See how they're about the same distance apart? Okay, just so that would make a straight line, but don't draw that. It's not going to be. Slightly down, make another dot. Now, don't go slightly up. We're going to make a pyramid here. Go almost all the way up to the top of your page, but not quite. Okay, this is the top of your pyramid. You are going to draw a line connecting these two. A line connecting these two. Like this. We have the top of a pyramid. Now here's the bottom. So this is the very top of our tower. Now here is where the trick comes in. These two lines are incredibly important because every shape from here on out that's geometric is going to be parallel to these lines. So let me show you what I mean. We're going to make a larger cube underneath this pyramid. So skip down just a little bit, make a dot. You can erase this part of the line if you want to, because that's not going to exist. Now, if every shape is going to be parallel to this same angle, that means this line is going to be parallel to that one. That means this line is going to be parallel to that one. Now we need the back of our cube. This line and this line are parallel. That means this one has to be parallel to these two. That means these are all parallel to that. And we have the top of our cube. Right now it just looks like, I don't know, a flying carpet. So we want to make it a cube. So I'm going to make a line straight down, just long enough to where it might look square. This line is going to be parallel to that one. These lines just go straight down. There we have one face of the cube. And then the other one. Pretty cool, right? All right, I'm going to zoom out a little so you can see the next part. Let's put a cylinder under here. So a cylinder isn't going to have any angles. It also won't have a center line. But the two sides of the cylinder need to be equal distance apart from the center line, or it will look not balanced. So if I wanted a long cylinder balanced underneath, it's going to be the same distance from that center line. Now, remember up here we had this dot here and then it went down just a little bit. The same thing kind of rings true for the width of this is about the same as this. That means the center of this cylinder is going to be right next to where the ends of that is. And it's going to be about as wide down as this top one because they're both the same width. And we're going to erase this. And we have pyramid, cube, cylinder on our tower so far. All right, what should we do next? Zoom out a little so you can see. Let's do another cube, but let's make it a little bit bigger. So that would make it the same as that one. So let's make it bigger. We're going to go out to here. These dots are going to be in line with where the center would be of that circle, okay? Now, if you're not sure how far down to go here, hold off for a second because we know this line, this line, this line is all parallel, which means it has to be parallel here. Okay, so that determined where it meets that center line. This one should automatically be correct. There, oops, there, yep. So that's here, that one would be there. Now we have a top to that one. Let's make this like really short. It's just like a thin book or a clothing box. That way we can fit more things underneath. All right, so there's that part of the tower. All right. Somebody asked in class, well, what if there was a sphere underneath this, holding it up? Why don't we pretend that our sphere was cut off at the top so that the sphere, if this was three-dimensional, if you could see through this, that's where that, if this was a clear glass, you could see this and this, okay? What if our sphere goes to here because, you know, we want it that big? Yeah, we do want it that big, otherwise it would be too hard to see. Okay, but we want the bottom of our sphere rounded. So just drawing it out, it isn't going to look three-dimensional just yet, only because it's not shaded. But later, let's erase all these extra lines. When we shade this last, this is going to look more sphere-like instead of just a circle. So I don't know, I guess I could shade a little bit of this now. I'm going to make the light source coming from the side. Maybe it's hitting this. Okay, so that would make this side the darkest. Especially because that's overlapping. Maybe I cast a little bit of a shadow. Because maybe it's coming, oh, maybe the sun's coming from this side, so it's hitting this side. So this is casting a shadow onto here. That's a little bit advanced. I wouldn't worry about it as much as having one side lighter than the other, which you probably saw in the last video. If you wanted, you could use your fingers, smudge it up. Typically artists don't use their fingers because it gets oils in the paper, but this is just a quick drawing. See how giving this some shading is what is making it look like a sphere? Okay, anyways, I will work on this a little bit more later, but let's keep going with this tower. Let's at least get to the bottom of the page. Okay, maybe this sphere is balancing on another cube, but it's a very skinny rectangle. Parallel with that, be about there, be about there. Okay, pretty good. And let's see, looking down at it this way, the sun is shining, so this would be the brightest area. Probably want to end our structure with a big sturdy base. What if we do a pyramid, except the top's been cut off to match up with here? So this would be straight, touches the ground. And then this would be, and you can go it as far as you want because it's a pyramid, so that just determines the angle. That's a nice base for our tower. And here is a tower of geometric shapes. All right, shading. The last step for your project is to shade this. If the sunlight's coming from this direction down, this side of every shape is going to be the darkest because it is in the shadow. So let's just start with that. A shading pencil would work a lot better, but number 2 pencils are fine. Okay, if the sun was coming this way, this would be super dark because of the shadow of the cube. It'll kind of curve like that. And then it would fade off. This side would be a little bit lighter. This side would be a little bit lighter. Let's see, sun coming from this way, so we have the shadow. Does that make sense? Okay. Light coming this way, so we've got shadow. I'm not expecting you guys to do this perfectly. This is a concept that's a little bit higher level, but I want you to try. I'm going a little bit fast. I know your craftsmanship could be a little bit better than what I'm doing now. I'm mostly just trying to show you the possibilities. Now I'm back to that sphere. I'm going to show the shadow of this. Box on top of it. So the lightest part is these top planes because the sun is coming down. So then this is casting quite a big shadow onto this. That makes sense. And then finally we have the bottom. This side's the most shaded. And this side's lighter. To the lightest part, but this is a lot lighter than like this because the plane is more up. So here's a very fast tower of geometric shapes. So your job now would be to either shade it as it is, or you could get creative with this. Maybe you make a new tower, but you turn it into something else, like a hotel or a water park or something like that. Now, one thing I want to point out is if you wanted to add details like a window or something, don't forget that every line on this plane has to be parallel to these lines, because if you just did this, that wouldn't look right. This looks right. Feel free to give it a try. This project doesn't have to be perfect, just something fun to do.